Obviously, people who have this condition of gender confusion have much higher rates of anxiety, of depression, and suicide.
What is gender dysphoria? Is it a mental disorder?
Please welcome Desmond Knowles, a.k.a. Desmond is amazing.
Martasia's the devious diva you could ever think of.
Transgender issues are finally making it mainstream.
So naturally, we're going to science this up.
And there is no scientific evidence that any of that decreases after the surgery.
This is what I want to do.
See, nobody can change genders.
And as a number of people who still practice the surgery have recently testified, there have been increasing rates of regret in trying to undo the surgery.
I was born a male. I started living as a female when I was 19 years old. Had a sex change when I was 30 years old. I've now been living as a woman for 28 years, and I fully regret this.
So like everything is great, and I'm happy. I'm not happy. If I had one wish, I'd never have taken that first testosterone shot.
Are we truly biologically the sex we identify as? Let's talk about that now.
Watch a little clip here.
Laverne Cox, definitely my favorite right now. She's amazing. I love her. I think she should be, if there's going to be a trans spokesperson, I think it should be Laverne Cox, definitely.
I think Miley Cyrus is a very big like inspiration with me, especially when it comes to gender. She is just like fighting hard for the trans community. She is so open and accepting with that, and she's a very big voice, and I appreciate her for that. I love James Smith.
That if a kid, 5 years old, a boy says, I feel like a girl, it is wrong to say, well, no, you're really a boy. You actually have to embrace that idea and continue forward with it. So what do you think about this?
Wow. I mean, obviously not possible, right?
Well, look again. It's possible if you're a woman
Oh,
dressed up as a man.
that's
Yeah.
true. Is that a woman?
So this is a biological born woman, but she's been taking testosterone to get the facial hair and the muscles and all this.
Yeah.
I think where things are headed is way darker than what we see on the surface. I think it's small steps that are leading us there. Satan wants to have a world of confusion. He loves this. And I mean, in the Bible it talks about that they were creating new ways to sin, and we just can't even imagine what the days of Noah were like, but I think we're quickly approaching that. We're kind of like leaving the postmodern mindset into the post-truth mindset. Let's just look at postmodernism for a second. So what is postmodernism? Postmodernism is the idea that reality is not mirrored in human understanding, but rather constructed as individuals find their own reality. What's true for you isn't necessarily true for me. It takes a micro rather than a macro approach in looking at the way individuals identify themselves, compared to the structuralism view in which an entire society is looked at. Postmodernists believe that realities are subject to change and that apparent realities are actually social constructs which limit individuals. So we see problems with this. I mean, it's if there's no set rule, then who's to say pedophilia is wrong or murder is wrong? What's true for you is not true for me. Hitler was he had a good idea in his mind. He wanted to evolve humanity into perfect beings, blonde hair, blue-eyed, the best race, and he looked at other races and he said they're not human, exterminate them. He was trying to evolve humanity. In his mind, he was doing something good. But I don't believe that is a good thing. I believe in set laws. Biblically, God gave us a set law that we should follow, and I believe those laws. This is in which objective facts are less influential in shaping public opinion than appeals to emotion and personal belief. Now we can understand how, we have to conform to this. Oh, you feel like you are not the gender you were born as. I have to cater to that. I have to call a boy a girl. I have to, we have to cater to this because your emotion trumps physical reality and truth. And what's ironic is that I meet so many atheists who say, I'm an atheist because I believe in science. I don't believe in your fairy tale. I believe in, physical proof. I believe in science. Yet they're probably in the post-truth mindset where they agree with, well, if you feel like a dog, then you can be a dog. That totally does not coexist with I believe in
if
science.
this was true, and I feel like the world around me is viewed through the Christian mindset, there is a male and a female, and that's how I feel. Does that make it truthful? Based on this. You know what I mean? So how could you refute me, because that's how I feel,
Yeah.
if I'm saying that my emotional belief system tells me the world is like this?
I guess I would even ask the question that Pilate asked, and that is, what is truth? I mean, the way this is constructed, you're deconstructing the word truth even. Truth now becomes opinion, because in order for truth to be truth, it's something that's set up as absolute that everybody agrees upon. You can't call it truth anymore because everybody's going against it. You have to call it now opinion. And so what we're talking about is like moral absolutes. And where does morality come from? Unless morality transcends you and I, then whatever you want goes. And so that's kind of the foundation to all of this.
So you brought up an interesting point, because I was thinking, how come Christians are persecuted in such ways like, well, you're not allowed to have that viewpoint because you're not allowed to teach that homosexuality is wrong. You're not allowed to tell people they're wrong. Why? You have a feeling that is right. So how can they tell you that that's wrong? But at the same time, if you go with that, then you have to say, well, then I must accept that this man is a dog. Mm-hmm. This is where it gets really confusing, because it's like you want to justify one way, but then in order to do that, you have to take this other way too. Or do you? So that's like where the discussion should really go, because it's like, that's why it's called Gender Babylon. It's just pure confusion. And how do we coexist with these two ideas?
But there are people whose sex and gender are not the same. As a first hypothesis, scientists thought there might be a male brain, shown here, and a female brain. Voilà. So perhaps a person could have a male brain in a female body and a female brain in a male body, or the other way around. But there are people who identify as both genders, or neither gender, or a combination of the two. And it turns out you can't identify the gender of a brain just by looking at it. Gender is like sex. It's on a spectrum.
So following along this line of thinking, if this is a mental issue, we look at people who are depressed and they want to kill themselves, and we don't say, if that's how you feel, just go for it. We want to help them. When you find people who are anorexic and you can tell, you look healthy, you do not look skinny, yet they keep starving themselves and they look like a skeleton. What if that person went to a liposuction clinic and said, Doc, I need liposuction, and they look like a skeleton? Would it be right for that doctor to perform a surgery on this person because of their mental view of who they are? This is where we can see a parallel, because people are saying, well, I might look like a man, but I feel like a woman, so doctor, give me the right stuff. Is that really a good thing to do? People say that there's a lot of suicide in the trans world because they can't transform to who they want. But I have actually heard cases where people go through the whole transformation, have a different mindset later in life, and they're even more depressed and commit suicide afterwards. Because what have I done to myself? I've mutilated my body.
The fact of the matter is that 40% of people who are attempting suicide are people who regret ever changing genders.
Growing up, I had a totally different mindset. You saw the picture. I thought that was going to be me for life. I was like, this is me. There's no gender in clothing. I wear makeup, and this is me. It's not me anymore. That was a different mindset. Yet now they're telling you that parents cannot tell a 13-year-old, they cannot tell them that you're not trans. It's called child abuse. If a parent interferes with what that kid feels like. When I was 13, I wanted to get horn implants. I wanted to get my teeth sharpened. I wanted all kinds of tattoos that I would never get now.